To install MAMP server, visit mamp.info and then click the download button next to the MAMP icon. Make sure you have Mac OS X selected and click download. The file is fairly large, about 260 megabytes, so it may take a few minutes to download. I'm going to cancel the download because I already have the setup file downloaded previously. So once your package is finished, just go ahead and double click on it to install. When prompted, click continue. Click continue again. Agree to the terms. Now over here, you're going to click customize and unclick the MAMP Pro. Remove the check mark because we do not need MAMP Pro. MAMP Pro does have additional features, but it's not a free software. So we'll be using the standard MAMP installation, which has all the services we need, and then click install. Type in your password in case you need to authorize the installation. So once it's been installed, just click the close button to close this dialog box. Now click Launchpad and click on MAMP. When the MAMP dialog box appears, click the Preferences button. Here we can configure some basic settings before we launch the server. Under the Start Stop tab, we can specify to start the server when MAMP is opened and shut down the server when MAMP is closed. So to do that, put a check mark in the first option here and make sure the last checkbox is also selected. Make sure that the second and third checkbox are also checked off. Under the Ports tab, you can leave all the default settings. In the PHP tab, check off 5.6.10 as the default version. That's what we'll be using for this course. And under the Web Server tab, make sure that Apache is checked off and then click OK. Now click the Start Servers button, and what this is going to do is it's going to turn on the Apache server and MySQL server. As soon as that happens, the default MAMP page is going to load in your web browser, and the URL to this page is localhost:888. Now the 888 value is the port assigned to the Apache server, and you'll need to specify that anytime you plug in your localhost URL to access your web files. So this particular default page is located in our webroot folder in the MAMP directory, and we'll come back to that in a second. This page does have some important information. First, if you click on PHP info, it gives all the information in regards to our PHP service running on our Apache server. The version is 5.6.10, and there's just quite a bit of other information, some of it which we'll explore during the remainder of this course. But for now, it's just important to know where you can find this information. To access phpMyAdmin, which we'll be doing later on in this course as well, you just click on the phpMyAdmin link, and this is a database administration tool. So again, we won't get into this right now. It's just important to know where to access it. This is the host for your MySQL database, so we are running it on the local host on our local computer. The port is 8889. This is very important, the root username and password. They're both root, and the password is also root. Since a lot of the tutorials are conducted on a Windows machine, our Windows WAMP installation does not require a root password. So this is one very important consideration. During some of the lessons in this course, we will not be specifying a password for our database connection. In this case, you will need to put in root. Now we'll come back to this in more detail as we progress through the course, but just remember that you will need to specify this password anytime we establish a connection to our databases through our PHP scripts. Now, to access your web root directory, and this is the folder that will store all our websites, just click on the Finder and then click on Applications, and then just look for MAMP. This is the folder. The htdocs folder is where all your websites will be stored. Now, right now it's empty because we have no websites. But say, for example, we wanted to develop a website called My Website. In that case, we'd create a new folder. And you don't have to do this, it's just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so now we have a folder in here called My Website, and all our HTML files or PHP files, whatever the case may be, would be stored in this folder. Now, if we wanted to access the web pages in this folder through our web browser, we would plug in My Website and then the file name. So for example, index.html or whatever the case may be. I'll go ahead and I'll just transfer a demonstration file. And you'll be doing this later on in this section, so don't worry about it for now. So I've pasted a file in here called connect.php, and all this file does, it's a simple PHP script that tests our database connection. So we want to be able to see if our PHP script is able to establish a connection to our MySQL server. So you can see that we've plugged in all the parameters. Localhost, username is root, password is root, and then some of the PHP syntax for creating a database connection, all of which we'll go over later on in this course. So after My Website, I'm going to plug in connect.php. And it says connected successfully. That means that our MySQL server is running and the PHP script was able to connect with the database server. Okay, and that's also what we meant by you have to plug in your root password. Windows users will not have to enter a root password, but you will. This is very important because your database connections won't work unless you plug in the correct username and password. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and delete this because we don't need it. Okay, now back in the main MAMP folder, there's a few important configuration files that we'll be using later in this course. And you might want to just make a note of this for reference purposes. First, in our configuration folder, in the Apache directory, we have a file called httpd.conf. This file stores very important settings for the Apache web server. And some of these we'll be modifying later on in this course. So again, just keep a note of the location of these files. Next, in your configuration directory, in the PHP 5.6.1 folder, because remember that's the version of PHP we're using for this course, there's a php.ini file. And this file contains very important settings for the PHP service, which is running on the Apache server. So again, we'll be going over a few of these later on in the course. For now, it's just important to know where this file is located. And lastly, in the bin folder, and then in the phpMyAdmin directory, we have a file called config.inc.php. And this file contains important configuration settings relevant to the phpMyAdmin installation. So that is another important file which you'll need to make a note of. So for now, we're not actually making any changes to the files. So I'll close this, I'll close down the MAMP directory. Okay, and so that's it for now. Once you've completed these steps, you can go ahead and close down your web browser. You can leave the MAMP server running because we will be using it in the upcoming lessons. So I'll just go ahead and minimize that.